The following is a recording from Big Sound's conference program. We hope you enjoy listening to The Art of AR, exploring the creative process behind artist development. Big Sound is the largest music industry gathering in Australia and the Southern Hemisphere, held annually in September in Fortitude Valley, Muggagen, Brisbane. On behalf of Big Sound and our partners, we respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the Yagara and Turrbal peoples. Their rich culture and history have shaped this place for countless generations. We honour elders past and present, extend our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples listening today. Let us walk together in harmony and respect.
Welcome, my name is Ralph Peer. I work at Peer Music, which is an international music publisher, independently owned and operated. I'll just introduce the panel real quick, going from closest to me over. So first, Lau Frías is the A&R director at the Secretly Group, which works with labels such as Dead Oceans, Jaguar, Satisfactory Records, and of course, Secretly Canadian. You were raised in Lima, Peru, and it has been a fundamental voice in the Latinx community, including working with Omar Apollo and Cuco.
Correct.
And many more. And then next to her is Marihuzka Cornelius. She brings over 20 years of A&R experience in the music industry and has had key roles, including music editor for 9 MSN, MySpace, and label manager, and now A&R director, and then later A&R director at the seminal indie label Ivy League Records, where she worked with some of Australia's most celebrated artists, including the Teskey Brothers, Rolling Blackouts CF, Hatchie, RVG, The Rubens, and Mia Ray. And then in 2023, she became the first female head of A&R at a major record label, which is Island Records here in Australia. Next, we have Jamie Raeburn. You're initially from the UK, migrated here in 1998. You launched Sweat It Out, a Sydney electronic label in 2009, and you're also director at Zeylon Distribution over at Melbourne. And then you have worked with such artists like Rufus the Soul, Purple Disco Machine, Dom Dalla, Lude, Ob Mob, Starly, Yolanda Be Cool, and What's So Not. And then lastly, we have Ollie Hodge. Ollie started out as an A&R scout at Warner Chappell Publishing, and then you moved to Columbia in London and later to New York and worked with bands like Glass Vegas, The Vaccines, George Ezra, Passion Pit, The Gossip, MGMT, Declan McKenna. And then you moved to Polydor for 4 years and worked with The Glass Animals, Holly Humberstone, Baby Queen, and A&R'd records with Haim and Years and Years. And then lately you've set up your own label, Some Action, in 2024 and released the Good Neighbors EP, right? Or Good Neighbors band and their debut EP, which is doing very, very well. Congratulations. And I think now you're currently partnered with Reservoir in developing the roster there. Excellent. So I think we have a pretty well-established A&R panel. So in the panel today, we are exploring how A&Rs in the industry impart their creativity onto the projects that they work on. And specifically, we're not looking at the pre-signing process. So we're looking at basically everything that happens after day one of the signing. And I've got a couple of questions here. I think you guys have taken a look. Can any of you give us an example of a creative element that you've introduced into a project? And that could be anything from like the actual music in the project itself or the marketing campaigns, outreach, etc.
I mean, sure. I guess you mean like solid examples of like, okay, yeah, cool. So I guess like fundamentally A&R is you're part of the creative process. Probably don't need me to explain what it is, but often as A&Rs, we see things that artists maybe aren't seeing, whether that's sonically or, it's an outsider's perspective. So maybe we hear songs that we are like, that's the one, and they're like, I hate it. And it's our job to kind of go in and really fight for that song. So numerous times, I mean, that's happened to me over and over where an artist doesn't want to release a song and it ends up being one of their biggest songs of their career. I think like a tangible example, one that's I think is a really good example is I worked with a band called the Teskey Brothers who are incredible, and at the time that I started working with them, they had been producing everything on their own absolutely beautifully, and it's very hard to kind of be that good and like be audiophiles doing your own music and move from that. So when they came to making their third record, they wanted to look at something new and how could they kind of elevate what they were doing. And, we talked about lots of different producers and as well as knowing the artist, our job is to also know the people in the industry, to know the producers, to know them as people, to know what their taste is, what they can bring to projects. When we were talking about producers, said, what about Eric J? I know Eric really well. He's as passionate about sound as these guys are. I know that he produces Flume and is like known for his dance stuff, but I really believe that he can make something special and amazing. And Serendipity had it. They actually sat down next to each other at a wedding, so they had gotten to know him a little bit, and they were like, oh, that's a cool idea. Went down the rabbit hole, and he ended up making, this last record that was just sonically so beautiful and definitely an escalation in sound. It just allowed the band to be able to be the band and not have to worry about when the players are getting there, where the engineer has plugged everything in, and that was like a new freedom they hadn't had before.
I can add on to that. A lot of times we get to do this creative process with artists at the very beginning, but then also sometimes we sign an artist that's an album or 2 albums into their career. I had that happen with Cassandra Jenkins, who signed at Dead Oceans. She'd been working with the same collaborator her whole career, and then this last record that came out about a year ago, she wanted to totally switch it up, so also introduced her to some great people, including Andrew Lappin, who works with Lorraine and Slauson Malone, and just a very like textural, heady guy, and they just like really loved working with each other. But the funny part about it was after the record came out, Cassandra, if you know her music, it's very, her songwriting, she approaches songwriting like a scientist. It's very anthropological, and she really studies the way humans are. Anyways, we were sitting at this matcha place, and there was like a really just kitschy piano top 40 cover of a song playing, and I was like, Cassandra, imagine we did something like this for your record, and her eyes lit up, and basically we created a reimagined version of the record that just came out last month. The first record was My Light, My Destroyer, and the follow-up reimagined record is called My Light, My Massage Parlor, and it's literally just about approaching music from the other side of the glass door. So kind of like a retake on piano cover soothing music with a lot of sound design. And I feel like something to note about that is that a lot of our work requires trust with artists, and knowing when to add, when to choosing what battles to fight. And that was a moment where I was like, wish she really had built trust with me. I was like, you should take the A.G. Cook songwriting class, because she really wants to make a project that's a bit more synthy and electronic, kind of like in the vein of a Delphinium Blue, if anyone knows that song of hers. And she was like, you should take it with me. So we've been taking that course together, and I think that really speaks to our relationship.
So you mentioned this is in instances where an artist might have already got a couple projects under their belt, but what about when it's their initial project? And then how do you go about building that trust that you mentioned?
I think making sure that so much of what we do is knowing the project better than anyone else at the label, and knowing when to add or when to let the artists really go with their own ideas. A lot of what we discuss is why fix what isn't broken. You don't just want to add some big name producer for the sake of it. Just again, knowing the project through and through. And I think part of that is also just knowing what's already the magic there, what's working there. I work with this amazing band called Chanel Beads, and so much of their process is, Shane is just a creative genius, and he's an 100%er in his record, and the record's had a ton of success. They're going on tour with Lorde in a month, and we've reached out to by the biggest producers, and we're just kind of no, he has the magic touch. He doesn't want to work with other people, he just produced 2 songs for Caroline Polachek, and has been in the studio with just a bunch of amazing people since for their projects, but just being able to hold on to that magic has been important.
Yeah, just not letting a bad idea go as well is also, sometimes the artist just gives up or they don't see it. And a lot of the A&R side is, one thing, it's not really creative, but it was legally creative, I would say, is we had a bootleg, and it was not our records, it was just going off though, and our artist had no numbers, no nothing. Really what had just come out.
Was that Land Down Under?
Fucking yes. Well, we tried to we didn't even want to keep the record. We just wanted it out. So we went to Sony and said, release it. It's yours. It's going off. It'll be great for everyone. They said no, didn't want to pass it. Went to the publishing and thought we might even try covering it. Publishing said no. And like that was it. We just thought, we'll give up on it. But then we're like, no, fuck no. This is actually worth going after. We could see the crowd reaction. They wanted it. It was going to happen. So I ended up calling the singer in LA, and he was actually just pissed off that he never got asked to clear it. He didn't want to clear it. He didn't want to, but he was just pissed off that he hadn't been asked to clear it in the first place. So I ended up, he said, I'll just re-sing it for you. I'll re-sing it. We went out and got somebody else to record the wee flute thing, did all the re-records and everything. And this was all in a space of like 3 days. And so there was just a lot of late night calls. And then we ended up getting out by the following Friday, and it blew up everywhere. And it was just great. And it was like, it was that inch moment where it was just like, no, we're going to give up on it. And no, fuck it. Let's just push through. Make those calls.
So much of our work is that it's like quality control and making sure that we're like kind of like guiding the ship, because there's so many people that touch a record internally at the record label, and so many players like the agents and stuff. So making sure that as A&R, again, you know the project better than anyone else, and you're really spearheading and like making sure that people feel as excited about the project as possible. I had that happen with Chanel Beats. When I heard Mom Kimby had a record coming, I was like, there's no one else that's going on that tour except Chanel Beats. We went through the agents went to the agents. They were like, oh, sorry, I think they already have someone in mind. I was like, no, we're gonna keep trying. And we tried and tried and tried. And then as soon as Dom heard the music, he was like, no brainer. And that definitely was part of the reason they got the Lord tour this time around. And again, as an A&R, you need to know your project best and know what you should be focusing on and what you should be stressing and making sure other people take notice of.
Hello. Coming back to what you were saying about I totally agree on the trust thing. It's like building that trust with the artist where they listen to you and believe that you can help them to get where they're trying to get to, and you have to figure that out at the beginning. And going back to what you were saying about being there at the beginning, I thought about like this question. I think the best example for me personally was the first time I saw George Ezra. He was doing a small show in front of a few people, and he started singing, and people in the bar just stopped. People, like there was a guy next to me who was just sort of stood there with his pint because this voice came out of this guy. And a couple of songs in, everybody started talking. And I was watching the gig just thinking, this guy just needs really good... If he had like 3 really good songs rather than 1 really good song, they wouldn't talk. And then I was like, so my job is just to make sure that he can play a half-hour set where they don't start talking. So, he was really open to trying some collaborations out with writers, and we put him with a few different people, and one of those people was Joel Pott. And Joel and him worked together for, a couple of weeks, didn't really get anything out of that, but they made this amazing connection where they, George was 19 at that point. Joel was probably 30, had been around for a while, was in a band called Athlete and had a big hit with a track called Wires. So he was completely capable of helping get the song right. Anyway, over the course of like maybe 5 or 6 weeks, they wrote the bulk of that first album. And one of those tracks was Budapest, and that obviously changed. It changed my life. It changed George's life. It changed Joel's life. But it was an incredibly long process, and it was to do with the trust between it was quite a small team, and it was to do with the trust between all of us.
And sorry,
I was just going to say, I didn't necessarily hear that song and go, "Oh my God, that's going to be." It wasn't. It didn't come in and go, "Oh my God, that's a hit." It was just a really great song, and the first time he performed it, you just felt it straight away.
And how did you find Joel? Like, how did you know that was the person that you wanted to get in the room with?
That's a crazy story. Joel I knew because I was a publisher at Warner Chappell. I met him was literally one of the first artists I met when I was running around as a scout. The band had split up and he was looking for projects to develop. So it was just his publisher suggested him. We did a bunch of stuff. I facilitated a few different sessions. I think my biggest part in that relationship, though, was just that we could easily have kept going and done more and more, but I was like, this guy really believed. There was a real trust straight away between the two of them, and we tried a few people, but he was the person that we drilled down into. Yeah.
You know, I always kind of joke that, at least on because I work in publishing, on the publishing side of things, A&R, we're very much like a dating service. We set up people to, you know, go into the studio and hopefully some great chemistry comes out of it. But at the end of the day, it can be a crapshoot. Yeah.
I mean, it's become this incredible. They've written everything together since then. So yeah, it's wonderful to see them still working together 10 years later. You know,
No, it's fantastic. Another question I had for you guys. Think of one current artist that if you had the chance to work with, what would you kind of inject into their creative process, or like a creative idea that you would like to encourage them to use?
Bag's not.
such a hard question. I read this question and was like, oh my God, that's really hard.
I've got to,
like,
to be honest,
I've got to think of an artist I
I've
wish
been
I
sick
had.
for 5 days, and this almost broke my brain. I don't know.
If we want to skip
look,
it, we can.
No, it's a
Look,
good one.
I'm going to take one for the team. Yeah, I'll probably say, I don't know. Like, I've just come back from Puerto Rico, and saw Bad Bunny. And there was something so beautiful about how much this Bad Bunny record, has embraced his culture and brought in artists that people had never heard of before, and is really opening doors for those artists. So I would say I'd love to work with someone like Fontaines DC and make a record that really embraces Irish culture and introduces the world to maybe some Irish artists that they've never heard of.
Fair. And anyone else want to?
Yeah, I got one. I haven't really thought it through. I just really like, I saw a gig at Ammo and the Sniffers, not really my scene at all. Fucking energy on those shows are amazing. I'd love to work with them. Don't know quite in what capacity, but then there's another Aussie artist called X Club, who's like a techno duo I'm just kind of finding really exciting at the moment, and I just thought, like, get them wasted in a studio for a week and and just see what comes out, because I'd love to see that energy in a techno club in Berlin or something. That's as far as I got on the creative side.
Not officially sanctioned, but fair enough. Can I ask, what do you guys find kind of discourages your own creativity in the process? Are there any kind of hurdles that you feel you're constantly having to get over, and how have you managed to find the formula to do so?
I guess being an artist is obviously, there's, like, right now there's just so much noise. It's so hard to actually be heard by the people who will like your music. So finding those people takes time. There's huge financial burdens to being in a band, being an artist, to do it in a way that, meaningfully builds fan base. It requires travel. A lot of solo artists these days, it makes it even more expensive. So reality makes it, I think the thing about A&R and the artist is you're kind of in it together, and you're both as delusional as each other. Like, if you really believe in something, you see where it could go. You want it to go as far as possible. And the realities of also you're dealing with a human being. It's not like it's not like a box. You're not in a box factory making boxes. Boxes is people with like feelings and brain chemistry that's different to most people's, because they feel everything, and that's what makes them so special. So sometimes you're dealing with that as well, whether it's self-sabotage or self-doubt or comparison, all of that stuff that we have to navigate on a personal level.
I was going to say time. Time is always just a struggle with artists, when you want it's records are never really delivered when you hope and wish, but also just time for development. I mean, I'm proud to work for a company that takes pride in giving artists the time and being very much completely independent. We're like the only U.S. Founded independent company, secretly group, and we lose a lot of money on the first record as a label, with hopes and dreams that the next record and the third record, we work on a 3-record basis. But a lot of times you lose money with the hopes that next, just setting things up for future success. I think a lot of the record labels today, unfortunately, are not giving artists the time, and just are being very discouraged by not seeing the results that they hope to see on the first run. Very well knowing that good music takes time for people to really absorb and take in.
Yeah, I just agree with everything you guys just said. It's just, I guess as the A&R, you're like this sort of spring between the reality of what the record label is trying to achieve, which is to make money, and the artist is trying to achieve, which is to be great, and the artist being great is what allows records to sell and connect, and that's what makes the money ultimately. And you are often, especially at a big label, you can go from a planning meeting where you're sat and having a very blunt conversation about where something is at, what needs to be achieved. Those meetings can be really quite brutal, in my opinion. And then you're sat with the artist and the manager, and you're having to sort of translate that stuff back into artist speak. So the thing I struggle most with is just holding on to that feeling that what we're trying to do here is to make something great. And one of the reasons I started my own label is because I just wanted to get all that noise away from me and try and do something that's... Because I do believe if you make something great, ultimately it's got quite a good chance of connecting with a big audience. But yeah, it's just being patient and bringing that, your best self into those meetings with the artists, I guess.
It's also heartbreaking when you lose the deal, obviously.
Oh, man.
I mean, you mentioned like dating on the publishing, like producer, artist side, but in many ways, we are getting to know the artist so deeply and really falling in love with the project and the vision for it. And it's, pretty soul crushing when something really doesn't work out.
Going again when somebody's just said, actually, we're going to sign. I just lost somebody to Partisan, and I love Partisan. It's an awesome label. So
I just lost someone to Matador. Devastating 2 days ago.
It's so gutting, and
it's horrible.
You still have to and then the next day you're like, right, and the really great ones are hard to find.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's hard. Just all of that stuff.
Well, sorry. Speaking of kind of the hard part of the job, right? As you say, you're very much. Sometimes you need to act as a bridge and sort of translate between some very, very different worlds, and that's particularly stressful. So how do you feel? Please don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to diminish the conversation about artists' mental health, but what about A&R's mental health? And where does do you find that your creativity as an outlet in the way that you creatively influence projects, does that help? Is it ultimately a disappointment?
If I'm in a good space, I do much better work, and being in I work hard and have support to be in a good place for my artist. Yeah.
I think also, for me at least, my job is my lifestyle, not in like a workaholic way, but it really is who I am as a person. And I think figuring out ways to disconnect whenever possible. I was also at the Bad Bunny residency, and that was like the first vacation I've had in a long time, even though it was music adjacent. But yeah, just finding those moments where you can like really, and having non-music industry friends is so vital as A&Rs.
Fair. I saw a panel once where kind of a similar question was asked of a manager, and his answer was just dogs. Can I ask, does anyone have any mentors or like people in the industry that they've looked up to, and why do you look up to them? What are some examples of creativity that they've injected into their own projects?
I've got one guy called Justin Cosby. I mean, he's RIP, but he was, a lot of people in this room will know who he was, and yeah. I don't know, it wasn't so much about his work directly, it was his ability to step out of his work. And he would also call people, and I would instantly, the first meeting him, I'd instantly launch into work and how we can work together and how we can, and he was just like, slow down, how are you doing? How are you? And it was that, and then you start to get to know you personally, and then we spent BIGSOUND here. We were in competing businesses, we were trying to sign the same people, but we spent BIGSOUND here just joining meetings together. Like and we're enjoying each other's conversation so much that we asked everyone to come and join us. So we're ending up people that thought had back-to-back meetings that were just meeting us both together. And we ended up just doing laps up and down.
Those are the real ones though.
Oh, fucking yes. Yeah, no,
for the better good of the music industry.
He taught me to mentor in the sense of taught me back to enjoy the industry and to enjoy the music and not get sucked into, like, listen to the records you're releasing and do you want to work on this or do you not want to work on this? Because there's a big difference.
I was mentored by, because I was at Ivy League for 12 years, so I was mentored by Andy Kelly, Pete Lusty, and Andy Castle, and Michael Gudinski to some degree as well. And I think the thing that I took the most from them was you know, I don't know if anyone here knows Andy Kelly, but he's the guy that if you say his name, everybody says to you, nicest guy in the music industry. You know, they really taught me that you can operate in this business being honest, transparent, just being decent. And also the most important thing that they all imparted on me was to have fun, because what we do is fun, and to never forget that what we do is meant to be bringing people joy, and you should be enjoying your time being able to work in this business.
Sass Metcalf would be the mentor for me. Ollie and I actually met back when I was her assistant at Cobalt. She started Cobalt with Willard Adrets and is like an A&R legend, signed Radiohead's first pub deal, and has worked with everyone, including Max Martin to King Cruel and Childish Gambino, and just so many legends. And I really stand by the fact that music is people, and I feel like she really taught me that. Like, as her assistant, I'd schedule meetings for her, and she'd be in there with a lot of her meetings for like 2-3 hours, really, you know, really having deep conversations with them. I feel like a lot of people that I've ended up looked up to her. So it's like this really beautiful circle of life.
Yeah, when you asked this question, I was like, I know exactly who that is straight away. It's a lady called Alison Donald, who was actually hired by Sass Metcalf, who was my boss twice. She was my boss at Warner Chappell, and then my boss again at Columbia, due to some like wonderful happenstance. But yeah, she's just so enthusiastic. She's 15 years older than me, and continues. I often think, oh my God, I've caught up with where Alison was.
She's a hoot. She's the best. More energy than anyone I know.
Just so enthusiastic, so excited about music, such a people person. She taught me, I wouldn't say she taught me everything, because I have had a few people who I look up, there's a few people I really look up to. It's part of the music business, right? You're just like, oh my God, that person's amazing. But yeah, she's just so kind, honest, and very real, and says what she thinks. And she taught me to be able to sit with an artist and say what I really think in a way. I don't know if she taught me to do that. She encouraged me to sit with an artist and say what I really think and help them to get where they're trying to get to, which is ultimately the most important skill you can have as an A&R.
And is that, would you consider that part of the creative process? There's no way of doing A&R, so it's quite hard. That when I was thinking about this panel, it's like I have my way of doing it. I guess I've always worked with artists who I believe. I mean, even George, the story I told about George, I thought slightly diminished George, which is not fair, because the guy turned up and was like, "I love Tom Waits." You know, I was like, "I love Tom Waits. That's insane." You know, at one point I thought he was going to sound like Tom Waits. You know, So what? Hang on, why was I saying album?
that? Oh yeah, because I would have loved that, to be honest. He is that part of the creative process. So I always you're looking for people who inspire you as well. So I think the job of A&R ultimately is to just understand the artist and try and help them be their best self. And sometimes that's about bringing lots of people in, and sometimes it's about protecting them. And I think I didn't say that because someone else already said it, but that's for me the most important thing. Is like you're trying to help that one person do that one thing they're trying to do. But yeah, I think so. Communication but being real with somebody. You know, sometimes people are making music and it's not good enough, and they're brilliant, and you're trying to remind them how brilliant they are. I've been A&Ring quite a big artist for the last couple of years who are on there. Later in their career, let's say, they're still going, they're still really ambitious, and a lot of the job was just like trying to get their confidence back, you know, and just trying to be positive about what was great, but also say this is maybe not as good as it needs to be, and still yet be inspiring and not. So yeah, that's the job, I guess.
Yeah. So sometimes the best thing you can do is get out of the way.
Yes.
Like
quite often, that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. I mean, allowing them to be their own creative ideals. You know, like a lot of times you're trying to fit them into a little box because it's easier for you to talk to the marketing department and PR department. So you want them to do the edit. And at the end of the day, sometimes it's like, no, let's go with a 12-minute edit. That's a smart move.
Sometimes you're arguing, you're like, you really have to do this. And then they're like, I'm not doing it. And you're like, yeah, that's a nice one. I agree. But you can't say that necessarily.
I think a good people who are good at A&R also know they don't know everything. And that if it's somebody else's art, you've got to trust that their vision and their intention is the right way to do it. That's all I got to say.
Fair enough.
Let's pretend I'm A&Ring Radiohead, whoever it is. I'm just like, if I said this to Radiohead, would they punch me in the face? Yes, okay, don't say that then. Do more TikTok. Oh, no, I said I wasn't going to say TikTok, and now I said...
Sorry, man, that's it.
Every artist is so different. I think so much of our job is intuition. Intuition at the beginning, when we find I've always I'm very, very emotional and sensitive, and I feel like music is like the ultimate emotional conduct for me. And when something really feels that way, it's like I just really fall in love with the project. But also like being intuitive in how you treat an artist. Every artist is so different, and also artists evolve and change, and what they need from you, how you communicate with them, and just being able to like just stay flowing with them in that process.
Fair. You go from texting to WhatsApp to Instagram, yeah. And so, speaking of which, my last question for you, and then hopefully we'll have enough time for some Q&A. How has technology changed your creative process? And I would like to point out that we've gotten 40 minutes into this and not said the words AI. So let's not. Woo!
Or authenticity. Have we said authenticity yet? Because that's
Authenticity.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, that's another word that is used a lot, but also very necessary when you're talking about music, I guess.
Fair enough.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, how has technology changed your creative process?
I think I'm going to take a positive route and say that the really cool thing about technology is that, I am working with one of the most talented human beings I've ever met, a young artist called Red, who's actually showcasing here. And during COVID, they were bored, an amazing athlete, but was always really interested in music production, learnt how to produce music in their bedroom during COVID on their own. And I dare say that had they not done that, they wouldn't be on this path of, hopefully global domination that they're on right now. I think technology can be a good thing.
Our digital team at Secretly continues to just blow my mind. They're so good at what they do, and so much of telling the story, which we do with A&Rs, comes with staying close to the digital team. I'm really proud of the work we've been doing with Hachi, who is showcasing tomorrow. She's putting out a single any minute now off her next record. And we worked on this cover series of some covers that she'd recorded on Patreon like a year ago. And anyways, we've just had this incredible digital strategy. We had 500 people, new subscribers on her Laylo, like as of yesterday, within 24 hours of announcing or of teasing the new single. And those are the moments that you really feel like technology can really take music places. With Chanel Beats, Caroline Polachek, Billie Eilish just posted a Chanel Beat song on her Instagram. Rosalia just posted their music. So it's like seeing that, even like having just top pop artists find a still niche artist is always a good indicator that you're doing things right.
I think this, in the context of what we're actually talking about, which is the A&R process, I actually don't think much has changed in that you're just trying to trying to get your artist to do a great song and then record it well. Obviously, everything about that has completely changed. I started 2001, and in 2001, the process of finding artists was completely different. We used to, my friend Paul is sat up there, we started at the same time, we used to just run around the country trying to, you'd hear there was somebody good playing in Manchester and you'd drive to Manchester and be like, this isn't actually very good, and then you'd drive home again. I mean, that was insane, but we did that. Sometimes it worked. But yeah, my first job was just digging through demos in a bag, cassette demos in a bag, and I feel like the job there has changed so immeasurably because the process of getting signed the process of getting to the point that you could be signed was in itself a filter. And I feel like now it's so easy to get music out into the world that my demo bag is now not 300 cassettes, which was overwhelming, but 300,000 cassettes. It's just like, so that part has changed immeasurably. And that's where all the tech stuff, that's why there's so much research, is why it's just a way of managing information more than anything. But I still think the fundamental thing is you're trying to find somebody that is exceptionally talented, and the exceptionally talented people are still as rare as they always were. It's just, they're harder to see because there's just so much stuff.
Yeah, you have to cut through the noise very much so.
I like the fact that good music can be discovered later now. It's not just in the hands of the gatekeepers. It feels like the records go out, everyone says, no, it's shit. You feel like it's shit A&R. And then 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years later, it can start to work. People discover it. And I find that was something we never had before. Previously, you had to get it through these gatekeepers. Now the punters will actually find good music, like it, and share it. And it comes back and you're like vindicated after 10 years or whatever. So.
That's
Totally agree with that. It's great. Yeah.
We've got about 5 minutes left. So if there are any questions from the audience for our wonderful panel, I should say you might even notice we don't have enough microphones. So I'm afraid there aren't any for you guys back there. So if you would like to ask a question, please speak loudly. Sorry, this gentleman right up here.
The bit like stuff, but like, did you want to be an A&R when you were growing up? And like, obviously, because it's such kind of this weird title. Like, did you want to be an A&R when you were growing up, or when did you fall in love with being an A&R? You kind of realised that's what you were doing.
I actually did. Like, yeah, I actually did. When I was in year 10, I was reading a magazine and there was a picture of, I don't actually even know who it was, but it was a woman who worked at Sub Pop, and she was sitting in front of a desk and it said she was the head of A&R, and it said what she did. And I was like, fuck, I do that for fun. You can get paid for that. And, you know, my first instinct was like, I want to be Janet Jackson. But then when I found out what A&R was, I was like, that actually sounds like something I would really enjoy and be able to do, hopefully, for a long time.
I did not want to be an A&R. I grew up in Peru, very far from the industry. I was a Tumblr girl through and through, but I went to American school. My parents sent me to like rich kid American school so I could go to America. I went to school for neuroscience pre-med. That did not work out. I grew up so online that I think like packaging has always been my thing. I've always been obsessed with music. And then when I moved to LA for college, I just like was around all the musicians. Those have always been my people in the industry. So in a way, I feel like people saw that before I could even know what A&R was.
I started making music in my bedroom on a computer. And then I wanted to be a producer. Well, I was in a band, then I wanted to be a producer. I also always loved graphic design. At one point I wanted to be a graphic designer. Then I loved the graphics for this festival, by the way. It's so great. And then, I don't know. I met A&R people through being in a band, and I was like, that seems like a cool, something I feel like I could do. I was never an artist. I made music, but I was never an artist, which is different things. And so I feel like I bring that. I'm like able to understand the process of sitting down and trying to write a song. I've tried to do that. I have done that. But this allows me to use my skills in a way that helps other people. And I really respect the artist because of that. I guess that's what I bring. And I was about 17, I think, when I thought that would be a cool thing to do. So yeah, that was a long time ago.
Oh yeah, I want to be a DJ. Run clubs and be a DJ, but I've fucking got no attention span, so I used to walk off and not come back and be chatting to someone in a corner. So I realised it's not a career for me. It did. That was to remind me, and I'd be like in a bar or something, and oh yeah, that's me.
Fair. Any other questions? I think we probably have time for one more. There in the center. Yes. Hi.
You mentioned having to kind of help one of your artists who read about themselves and they weren't really good enough. Do you find that you do a lot of mental health coaching as well as A&R music, and do you feel like that's in your scope outside?
Yes.
A lot of what we do is empower artists to finish a song, to get to an idea. I mean, artists are such sensitive people because they're feeling their music, especially when they're in their creative process. And sometimes they'll go through slumps of not wanting to respond to you or wanting to retrieve. And you're kind of there to, make sure they feel empowered and seen. It's so much of what we do.
And creating art and then bringing it out to show the world is really scary. Like that is like having your heart out on display and people are judging it. So you dealing with the human element and the waves of different mental health issues that maybe an artist is feeling, being patient and, reminding them the things that they love about it. That's absolutely part of what we do. And
Yeah, it doesn't matter how big or successful they've got either. That's always the job, is trying to help that person be grounded enough that they can interact with the universe in the way that, to feel the universe. And so, yeah, whether I always achieve that goal, I don't know, but that's what I'm always you're just trying to help them. And it can be hard. Yeah. I actually wish I had qualifications in that. I did think actually about doing qualifications in that, but I don't, but I do my best.
Fair. Well, I'm afraid I'm getting told that we are out of time, so I apologize if we didn't get to answer your question, but thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to our panelists. This has been wonderful, and hope everyone has a good Big Sound.
Thanks for listening to this Big Sound session recording. Big Sound is where artists, industry and innovators connect, collaborate and create the future of music. To learn more, visit bigsound.org.au. See you at Big Sound 2026, celebrating 25 years of Big Sound.